and welcome back. I'm Rachel Humphries, Alumni Relations Officer here at Avondale University College. I'm sitting down to chat to Russell Woolley, who is the 1970 Citation recipient for this year. Congratulations and welcome, Russell.
Thank you. It's really nice to meet you and have the privilege of speaking with you.
Oh, and like this is a different way of doing things, isn't it? We sort of didn't expect this year, but we're doing the best we can to keep connecting with our alumni.
It is. It's a good way to do it. Yeah, under the circumstances.
Yes. Now, what we're going to do today is just have a quick chat to you about what you've been up to since your time at college and a few things. Now, you've been into a lot of things and we can't cover them all today, but we'll do our very best. I guess we'll start off with an easy one. In a sentence, tell us where you live, who's your immediate family, and what you're currently up to.
I live in a place called Tuahiwi, which is just near Rangiora, north of Christchurch in New Zealand. I'm officially retired, but I still go and do relief or substitute teaching. I run an English as a second language class once a week and have some really interesting students there, so that's fun. My main interest is my garden, which covers about 5 acres of lawns and trees and so on. So I'm always busy, always got something to do which I like, and plan on living for a few years yet.
Oh, well, I'm certainly learning that in retirement, people seem to be busier. It's not a slowdown phase at all.
No.
So now you have an interesting story about how you came to study here at Avondale. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I'll try and condense it down to the essentials, but I sort of grew up in Christchurch there, and there were not many other Adventist young people around in my particular church. But due to health problems with my mother, I sort of grew up not feeling very much value. I sort of felt I was pretty low, had low self-esteem. And I sort of found that in some of the young people there, the young men who were around that were on the fringe of Adventism was where I found the most acceptance. And so I got around with them. And then about 18 or 19 years of age, a series of events took place which began to change my life. I only did 2 years of high school, and because of that, I thought the idea of going to university or college was just never entered my head, because I just didn't feel I was capable of doing anything like that. And but then due to a number of instances, I became convicted that I needed to end my relationship with my friends there, which was a hard thing to do, but I did. And then I started to be fired from every job that I took on for various reasons. But the last one was I was fired because I was an Adventist, which you couldn't do today, but that was the reason he gave me. I know it wasn't the real reason, but take too long to tell you what the real reason was. But anyway, I began thinking, well, this is January. I need to find a job, and I don't know what to do. And so I couldn't find any work. I applied for jobs. Some of them were managerial trainees, and all of those I got, but all the ordinary jobs like a warehouseman or something like that, didn't get those. But it came to be that all of the jobs I got, I would have had to have compromised on my belief about the Sabbath. And so I had to make a decision, do I want to do it God's way or not? And so I I'm so glad looking back that I decided that I would not take the jobs, and but I needed work, and so the thought came to me, well, I'll apply for to be a literature evangelist and see if I can earn a scholarship at college because I had no money. And about this time, a, um, a parcel came in the mail that was wrapped in brown paper, had a string around it, and as it, that, my address on it, nothing else. And as it was handed to me, it was as though a voice said loud and clear, "This is an Avondale College student yearbook, and it's telling you you need to go to college." And my immediate response in my mind was, "No way, I am not going. I'd only make an absolute fool of myself, and I am not going." I didn't open it because I didn't want to see what was in there. Went put it up on the top of my wardrobe and didn't open it until 7 years later after I had been
7 years.
and it was 7 years, yeah. And it was a jacaranda, it was a yearbook. But I couldn't get it out of my head, so I kept saying, "No, I'm not going, no, I'm not going." But in the end, I had to say, "All right, okay, I'll go." Um, but I don't know how I'm going to get there because I have no money, so I probably won't have to go anyway. But so I went and applied to be an LE, and the director said, "Yes, I'd love to have you join us, but I can't start you till May." So that was 5 months. And I thought, what am I going to do for 5 months? I had no money to keep myself, no job. But I'd been invited down to Invercargill to visit friends, and when I was coming back a week later, they said, "Oh, look, here's a letter. Would you please take it into the conference office?" So I said yes. And so the next day I took it into the office. But before I went, I rang the LE director and said, "Look, have you had a chance to check? Maybe you could change your mind and start me earlier." And he said, "No, I've checked my schedule thoroughly and there's no way I could start you till May." So I thought, all right. I went into a place where I often knelt to pray and said, "Look, God, you got me into this, so you better get me out of it." And with that, I left and went and delivered the letter. And while I was explaining to the girl there that what the letter was about, who it was from, the LE director came out of his office and he said, "Well, I'm glad you're here." He said, "After I was speaking to you on the phone, two people came separately into my office and each said they'd been impressed to come in and tell him that he should start me straight away." Oh dear. Anyway, um, so he said, "Here's your canvas, learn it overnight, and I'll start you in the morning." So he started me in the morning, and I eventually did earn a scholarship to college. So I knew that that's
Yeah.
where I was meant to be, and despite some discouraging remarks and people telling me that I'd never make it, um, I knew God knew that I'd make it, and so I stayed on.
And you did.
I did.
And now I know that it's a really common thing I hear in talking to alumni that Avondale has been a place of healing for them. And I know that you've indicated that as well. So tell me, who are the people here at college that influenced you? And, if you wanted to say thank you for those people who sort of built you up and got you through that time here at college, who would it be and why?
I think the person that influenced me the most was Des Ford, um, because it was in his life and teachings classes, which I really hadn't applied for, but it's a long story. Everybody kept saying that I should be doing ministry and not teaching, and I began to wonder whether that was true. And so I asked one of the faculty, and they said, I'm not going to tell you. So you'll only come back and tell me that I gave you the wrong advice. And so I went to Desford, and he said, look, my advice to you is to start the ministry. If that's not where you're meant to be, you'll know. By the end of the first semester, you'll know. And so that's what I did. But it meant that I did life and teachings with him. And I just never wanted the lesson to stop. It just...
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I understand, have I got this right? Are you the person that started the canteen here at college? Is that right?
Yes. Doug Elliott was the business manager at that stage. The canteen had been built into the new dining room there, but had never been used. And he was a shrewd man, and he knew that I cooked. He'd asked me to cook for South Camp because he'd been the secretary treasurer there, and I had done that. And so he could see opportunity to make some money there, I think. And so he asked me if I would run the canteen, and myself and Bernice Roberts, who's now Bernice Creed, we started operating the canteen.
That's awesome.
Just grew and grew and grew until it was crowded every night, and we just worked flat out. We just made toasted sandwiches and milkshakes and all sorts of rubbish food, which they loved.
Sounds about right for students.
Yes. But it got to the stage where we were had so many customers that the dining room was suffering, and the cook wanted us to close down, but we were making too much money. They weren't going to close us down.
Well, money talks, doesn't it?
Yeah. So,
that's awesome. Well, the canteen is still here. It was certainly there in my day. It moved around a couple of different places.
Yes.
But yeah, still going strong.
Well, it really became the social centre for the students. Yeah. But it was fun. We had loads of fun.
I don't doubt that. Now you've got a long career in teaching and in education, and you've spent many of that in New Zealand and in the Solomon Islands. Tell me a little bit about what's made that such a rewarding career, because I know some students have come back to thank you.
Yeah, well, they have. It's really seeing young people who really had, or their future looked fairly doubtful, really, and to see them respond to what they hear at school and the encouragement you give them, and really the working of the Holy Spirit through you, using you to reach those students and seeing them do wonderful things with their lives. I could tell you many stories, but you don't have time. But I think of one in the Solomon Islands, a young man who was orphaned when he was young. Very unusually, his family didn't really, they looked after him, but he never felt like he belonged. And so he was not doing very well in classes. And I picked this up in my class and tried to encourage him. I'd go in at study time and try and encourage him to. So I knew he could do well. He had a good brain. But I never knew what happened to him. I left, and a number of years later, got a phone call from somebody in Dunedin saying, could I come and visit you? And I said, yeah, sure. And he came into our house, and he came into the living room, and I offered him a seat, and he just stood there and didn't say a word, and just stood there and then started crying. I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And I said, what's the matter? And he said, I just don't know how to say it. And it's making me cry. And he said, I just want to thank you. He said, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And he became the head pharmacist for the whole country and
Wow.
owns his own personal pharmacies in Dunedin.
What a privilege to play a role in his life.
Yeah,
Mm.
but there's a student who became professor of pediatric medicine in America, and I won't tell you where because they mightn't want me to tell you. But they found out we're coming to America to visit. My daughter flew us up from the States, took us out to Yosemite for the weekend, paid were wonderful to us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really very special, and
Mm.
it's obvious that God's played and a really big part in the direction of your life. I want to hear about the time you were lost at sea because that's not something that happens all the time. Tell me.
No, well, we were in the Solomons and we started doing things like having camps away, which sort of wasn't something that had been done much out there. We do it all the time in the homeland, and it was a real exciting thing for them. So there's a little island called Nugu off the coast, and we had two big canoes, which we had to make a series of trips on. And Laurel and the two girls were with us. They were just little, very tiny then. And we stayed till the last trip because we wanted to make sure everybody was getting there, everything was fine. And so we were in one of the last two canoes, and we had been going about 5 or 10 minutes. It was normally about 30 minute trip by canoe, and the cloud came in and it began to rain, and we couldn't see the land where we'd left, and we couldn't see where we were going. And I heard the two guys in charge of the canoes talking place talk, as they call it, which I couldn't understand. And I thought, the tone of their voice is something wrong. So I said to them, what's wrong? And they said, we don't know where we are. We're lost. And they said, normally we could see a light and we would know where we were and we could go, but we can't see the lights. And we could be headed out to the open sea, but we don't know where to turn around to go back to, and we don't know where we can go. And so many people get lost going out into the open sea, and nobody knows where they are. They never see them again. And so we pulled the two canoes together and said, let's have prayer. So we prayed, and then just as we finished praying, we looked up, and there, over in the direction we hadn't thought it would be, was a light shining. And the guy said, oh, I know that light. So they headed to that light, and the light was there until we could just see the outline of the island we were headed to on the horizon, and then the light went out. And then when we got to the island, we were telling the students about it, and some of the students who lived nearby said, that light hasn't worked for 3 years.
Wow.
And it never worked again.
Wow.
You're asking me all the emotional stories.
Sorry, Russell, you.
That's all right, I don't mind. It's just
Oh,
hard
I
to
think there's some amazing stories there from the very beginning through to college and after that, and faithfully following God. There's a lot, as I said, we haven't covered. I know you're into architecture, I know you're into gardening, and you're into cooking, and there's stories behind there, and we just don't have time. But if you're interested to know more about Russell, please read his citation. That's in our Homecoming magazine. But Russell, the class of 1970 honours you for a lifetime commitment to the ministry of teaching that inspired your students to live their very best lives. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you for what you've done for me. I wasn't expecting anything like that, and it really is an honour for me. But really the true honour goes towards God, His Holy Spirit working in and through us. Thank you.